Oh, tashidele. Genla, can you see properly now?
Yes.
Is it okay? All right. Very
You can
good.
make a little bit bigger. It's good.
Oh, sure. Let's make it a little bit bigger. All right. And then we're going to have a full screen as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I forget. Where's the full screen again?
View. Can you go to view?
Yes, that's right. Oh, there it is. Oh, I'm sorry, everyone. There we go. All right. Okay, let me make it. Now it's okay. Now can you see it well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now it's fine.
Good. Okay, so tashitele everyone again. Thank you for your patience as I set up the page. All right, so in this lecture, we are going to talk about most of the spelling rules. And because now you all know how to recognize all of the different elements that are there in a Tibetan syllable, and we have walked you through all the stages of how to pronounce each one of the elements that can be embedded in order to make a full syllable, then of course now there's going to be some exceptions and some rules that we're going to need to keep in mind in order to recognize certain words and know exactly how to pronounce them. All right. So we're going to walk you through those steps. We have an example for each one of them. So I'm going to try and explain them. And Genla, please feel free to interrupt at any moment if there's something that I'm not saying clearly or I'm forgetting to say. Okay?
That's okay. That's
all right. So just to remind you, the first chapter of The Heart of the Tibetan Language is where all of this information can be found, also explained in great detail and together with the audios as well. So that is the book that we are using. It's our textbook for our class. Therefore, you can always refer back to that one as well. So here we're trying to give you the essence as condensed as we can, and then you can unpack it and find a little bit more information. All right, so first of all, there's one topic that is really, really important. Now that we have studied all of the different letter combinations, then what happens if we are not sure how to recognize which one is the main root letter in a word? That is crucial. We need to know which one is the main root letter so that we know which one will be voiced. All right? So let's look at that. There's going to be a few examples. So first of all, if you follow with me here, you will see that some of the hints on how to find the root letter are based on the fact that the root letter is always the one that possesses either the vowel, either one of the yangshi, one of the four vowels, or possesses a superscript letter, a gochen, right, the head letters, or is one that possesses a subscribed letters, or both superscript and subscribed together. We have seen that there are these piled letters as well. All right, so that's the first trick to identify the main root letter in a word. So Genla, would you be so kind in reading the example for us and spelling it out?
So, Ka, Lada, La, Kiku, Ling, Nga, Ling. Ao, Ka, Naro, Kor, Ra, Kor. Ling, Kor. So this becomes Ling, Kor. First syllable is Ling. And then we have Kor, Ling, Kor.
Excellent, thank you. So what do we see? The one that carries the vowel and that carries is the letter that is more complex here. Ka, lapta, la, kikuli. This one is the root letter in the first syllable. Now we have two syllables in this word, and those two syllables are separated by the tsek. Our tsek was this little dot that you see over here, which actually shows you that that's the end of one sound unit, if you remember. So then what is the main root letter in the second syllable of this word is the one that possesses the naro, the vowel, the o sound vowel. So ka, naro, ko. So here in this example, it is pretty self-explanatory. It's nice that we have the vowels themselves, so that's really, really clear. But there's going to be other examples in which it might be a little bit more tricky. For example, in our second case here, in our second table, when there are only 2-letter words that only possess consonants and there are no vowels involved, then typically it is the first letter that is going to be sounded as the main root letter, the one that will carry the inherent A sound. That is basically the rule. So Genma, over to you.
No, so na, ma, nam. Na, ma, nam. Okay. So na is the root letter, ma is suffix, and then next one, and then ya, ra, yar. Ya, ra, yar. Yar. Some people read ya, ra, ya. Just lengthen without pronounce the ra. Ya. Okay. And then ya is the root letter, and the ra is suffix.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
And thanks for reminding us, Genla. This is something that you will, it'll be nice to note, is that the ra often produces just the lengthening of a vowel. We have spoken about that in the context of the suffix lesson, and that's something we've already talked about, and it has to do with regional differences and pronunciations. It's important to keep in mind, as you will find different speakers pronouncing it either as a ra or as a lengthening, whatever vowel is there. So that's really good. All right, now what happens? So in a very similar scenario, what happens when there's a word that then possesses 3 syllables, 3 letters, and if the third letter is a final sa, as we have written here, then sometimes there can be some ambiguity. But generally, the rule of thumb is that the first letter is going to be the root letter that will carry the vowel sound, and that will be sounded first. Not always, there will be some exceptions, but technically that's one way that you can go. So again, Genla, back to you.
Ka, nga, sa, kang. Ka, nga, sa, kang. So here ka as a root letter, nga as a suffix, and sa as a post suffix. And then next, pa, sa, pap. Pa, sa, pap. So here pa, first pa is a root letter, second pa is a suffix, and then sa as a post suffix.
So actually, here what helps us give it away is that sa, we have learned that there are 2 post suffixes, right? But there's only one that is visible, which is sa. The other one, the tachak, the suffix ta, has disappeared and you don't even see it anyway. So it's, for us, it's almost like it's non-existent in the context of the spoken language. So sa will be the only suffix that can have the position of being as a second suffix, so meaning following the first suffix of one word. Therefore, every time that you see a word that possesses 3 letters and you're not really sure, and the ending is a sa, you can almost always realize that that will be the main post suffix. But sometimes there's some exceptions, obviously. All right, so now in the fourth case, what do we see? You might have a word that has 3 consonants in a row, and when the third consonant is not a sa, as we just saw, then because sa is the only one that can be one of the 2 post suffixes, as I've just mentioned, then you can definitely rule out that the second letter in that word will actually be the root letter. All right, that's pretty self-explanatory as well.
Okay. So, mao, remember, this is a prefix. So, we have to spell out o, okay? Mao, ka, a, ka. Mao, ka, a, ka. Okay, so ka is a root letter.
And here, go ahead, Genla.
Yeah, okay. So ka is just a root letter, ma is the prefix, a is a suffix, and there's no suffix, sa. Okay.
That's right. And also ka, remember, second from the second column in the alphabet, could never be one of the 10 suffixes. So it's also useful to know which ones can be the suffix and the post suffix, because that is always going to help you. So I really do recommend to memorize the suffixes. It's very useful to know. Right, Genla?
Yeah, this is very important, Cynthia. Thank you mentioned, because once you know the 10 suffix, we have in the alphabet we have 30 consonant, right? And then from 10 suffix, out of they have still 20 letters, right? 20 consonant. All this never they always remain in the root letter. Never become prefix, never become suffix, never become post suffix. They are always whether there's head letter, superscript letter, subscript, whether there's no or without or with, always they remain, these 20 letters always remain as the root letter. Okay, so remember that even the 5 prefix comes from the 10 suffix. Yeah, so that's where those 20 letters out of 10 suffix, and then always can be the root letter.
Exactly. Thank you, Genla. That's really crucial. Now, our last example. Now, if you have a word that contains 4 letters, and again, there's no vowel, then how do you figure it out? So if one of these letters has a superscribed or subscribed, then that's easy. You identified it right away. But if it doesn't, then how do we go about it? Well, technically, it's the second one. So you can almost always be sure that it'll be the second letter in a 4-letter word that will actually be the main root letter of that word that you need to voice out. So Genla, also back to you here.
So prefix ta and root letter ma, and then nga suffix, and then sa as post suffix. Okay, so tao, ma, nga, sa, mang. Tao, ma, nga, sa, mang. Okay, so sound is just mang. Okay, because of prefix ta. And then we have next pao, sa, ma, sa, sam. Okay, pao, sa, ma, sa, sam. Okay, so this becomes sam. And then next one is coming later, because we have some exceptions. Maybe I read this same example will coming later. So just leave for now.
Okay. Yes, we'll come back to that in a bit. Yes, thank you, Genla. So those were the ways in which you can identify the main root letter whenever you're in doubt. Now, let's talk about exceptions, or maybe not necessarily only exceptions, but certain specific cases in which certain letters that you have already learned might be voiced or sound a little bit differently, depending on the position in which they are in what syllable of the word and preceded by what. So this is what we're going to walk you through now. So in our first example, there's something really important that one needs to know. When the letter pa, so what is this? This is the letter pa in the 3rd column of the alphabet. All right, so remember, it's a low tone and it's an aspirated letter. Usually, when you see the presence of the letter pa as a second syllable in a word, so after a tsik and you see the presence of this letter, it is no longer pronounced pa, but it is actually pronounced wa. All right, it is pronounced wa. So this is something that you will see a lot, because wa is an actual particle. Pa and was are particles that can indicate a lot of different things. Therefore, many Tibetan words will be created with pa and wa, Therefore, it's really important to know that that's how we pronounce them. Genna?
So let me read, spell out. Sa, la, ta, ta. Okay, this is da, and then wa, ta, wa. Okay, sa, la, ta, ta, wa, ta, wa. Okay, and then next we have head letter sa, and then ma, and then rata. Okay, so we start from the head letter when we spell out, and then root letter, and then rata. And then if there's any vowels, we can those vowels can be at the end. Okay, so sa, mata, ma, rata, ma, wa, mawa. Okay, so whole sound is mawa. Okay, and then next we have ka, la, na, ro, lo, wa, kalowa, kalowa. Okay, ka, la, na, ro, lo, wa, kalowa. Okay, and then next a, rakikuri, wa, ariwa, ariwa. Okay, so let me read once without spell out all these. Tawa, tawa, mawa, mawa, kalowa, kalowa, ariwa, ariwa. Okay, here ariwa means American. Yeah, people from America, we use ariwa. And then kalowa means just driver, just driver. And then mawa means like to say, it's more literating way. And then tawa can be moon. Tawa can be Monday. Tawa can be also name of person, like Tibetan people. Some people name as Tawa. Okay,
And
thank
it
you.
can also mean the month, right?
Month, yeah, month. That is important.
So dawa, a lot of people know the word dawa because we encounter it in a lot of different prayers, and as Genla is saying, is a name of a person, so you might identify that one. Great, thank you, Genla. All right,
Yes.
so now number 2 and number 3 are really, really interesting, and we need to pay a lot of attention because when the prefix of a word is the prefix ta, here we go, this. When the prefix ta precedes the root letter that we just read, pa, which in this case might be transformed as wa as well, then it sounds just like the wa that we have just read for you before. So let me repeat. Anytime that you see this letter, which originally we are calling pa in the alphabet, when it is preceded by the prefix ta, then it changes its sound and it's going to be pronounced as wa, and usually it has a high tone to it. Okay?
Yes. So it's wa. So prefix ta, root letter pa, but we read as wa. And then we have nga. So tao, wa, nga, wang. Tao, wa, nga, wang. Wang. Yeah. And then we have next tao, wa, pa, wap. Okay. Here you see the root letter the pa after the ta, and then we read wa, and then that another pa is a suffix, and we read as the same as normal pa. Okay, so tao, wa, pa, wap, and then becomes wap. Okay, and then next tao, wa, ra, war. Tao, wa, ra, war. Okay.
Mm.
And then next we have tao, wa, xiapju, wu, ma, uma. Okay. Tao, wa, xiapju, wu, ma, uma. Okay. We just keep our lips a little bit round and then push the air. Uma, uma, and then produce sound from here. Uma, uma. Okay. And then we have tao, wa, jingbo, we, na, win. Tao, wa, jingbo, we, na, win. Win. Okay. So let me read once without spell out. Wang, wang, wap, wap, wa, wa, wuma, wuma, win, win.
Mm.
Okay.
Thank you, Genla.
Okay.
So just to say a very quick word of the variation of some pronunciations, just so that you know, it's just to give you additional information. So you're hearing that Genla is pronouncing this word as wuma and this one as wen. Some speakers tend to just say uma and just n, right, Genla?
Yes, right.
So there are two ways of pronouncing when you have a vowel. Either the wa sound with the vowel, in this case, again, the wu, right? Or just u, as if there was no wa involved. So both pronunciations are acceptable. Again, it depends on the different region that the native speaker is from. So just know that that's possible, and so that you don't get confused if you hear both options. Okay, so the next one is also involving the presence of the prefix ta, the same prefix that we've been discussing over here in number 2. Now in number 3, there's again another transformation that is quite important to keep in mind. When ta precedes the root letter wa, followed by, ta in this case, that we've been calling wa, that is has a yata. Then ta, wa, yata is pronounced as ya, again as a high tone. Okay? So it's going to be important to keep that in mind so that you don't confuse with the sound of the pa, yata, cha that we learned originally. So this only happens when the prefix ta is there before the letter pa, yata. All right? So let's hear again. It'll become a lot more clear now that you see these examples. And these are words that are very common. Therefore, you will be able to identify them. Here we go.
Okay. That's all. Tao, wa, yata, ya. Okay. Okay. First we read as a wa, as we explained before, and then when we attach yata, it's turned into ya. Okay. Tao, wa, yata, ya, nga, sa, yang. Okay. Remember yang means we have vowel. Melodies we have 4 vowels. Okay. So kiku, xiapju, jingbo, naro we call is yang. Okay. So next is tao, wa, yata, ya, ra, yar. And then we have ka, yarka, yarka. Okay. Yarka is summer. And then next, tao, wa, yata, ya, ra, yar, khao, na, sa, ne, ne, yar, ne, yar, ne. So here you see a ne, is short time ago Cynthia mentioned there's some exceptions. If you find if there's no how to say if you here we have 3 letters. Yeah, here Kang. So we normally here when there's nothing like vowels head letters, sa we regard as a post suffix, and then pa as and the pa is suffix, and then first pa is a root letter. So most case is this case, but sometimes just sometimes it can be happen like this, and then here. Okay, here is ta is not the post suffix. Sorry, here is sa is not post suffix. It's just suffix, and then na is the root letter, and then ka is a prefix. So this one is in some case happen, but you don't need to worry. There are not so many like this word, only few. But in order to know is we know from the beginning that every Tibetan letters has a gender, male, female, neutral. So based on that gender, and then we know which letter comes suffix sa, which letter not coming suffix sa. Because of that's the reason. So you don't need to worry. Only few words comes like this. So that we can be learned when we in the class if we found like this. Okay, so this one is the second one is the na as a root letter. So we call khao na sa ne yat ne yat ne. Okay, so yat ne is summer retreat. In Tibetan monasteries they do always have summer retreat. So and then next is Tao, Wa, Yata, Ya, Kiku, Yin, Na, Yin. And then this becomes Yin. And then Cha, Kiku, Chi. Yin, Chi. Yin, Chi. So this one is also as previous table Cynthia mentioned like Umma. Umma. Same. If you see, there's some people read Uma, and there's some people when they speak, they because you produce sound. Just Uma is easier. So same here. You can also say Inchi. If it's difficult to say Inchi, you can just say produce sound of the the last consonant from the alphabet. So you can say Inchi. That is totally fine. And then next we have Tao, Wa, Yata, Ya, Kiku, Yi, Nga, Sa, Yin. 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 Okay. And then we have last Tao, Wa, Yata, Ya, Jingbo, Ye. And then remember our rule. This Pa is no more Pa. It's turned into Wa. Ye Wa. Ye Wa. Not Ye Pa. It's Ye Wa. Okay. So let me read once without spell out. Yang. Yang. Yarka. Yarka. Yarne. Yarne. Yinchi. Yinchi. Yin. Yin. Yewa. Yewa. Okay.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Genna. All right. So we have only a few more. I will say that these number 2 and 3, well, 1, 2, and 3 are very, 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 very crucial. Those will never change, will always be like that. It'll be really important to know. The next ones that are coming up are more guidelines on pronunciation that could be there in certain speakers from certain regions as well. But these are subject to change, okay? These also will depend on the region and the dialect and the pronunciation. But so often it's important to know here, number 4, that the prefixes ma and the prefix a, the achung, this small letter, might produce a nasalization in the second syllable. So it might be that the nasal sound is attached to the first syllable, and therefore you create a link between the two syllables with this nasalization. All right? So some of these words that we've given you here as examples are very crucial in the sense that they are very common in conversation and that you will hear them a lot. So it's important to really memorize them in that way, in case that at first you're still struggling with identifying all the different elements. So the first one, for example, is one that you will hear all the time, every day, and you will actually learn to say it a lot. So it's good to memorize it well from the beginning. So now back to you, Genla.
So I think this is yeah, mostly okay. We based on the Central Tibetan dialect. So they actually there are two way of for the tongue has two different, but we based on spoken. We read. Suppose this one is let me read without spell out. We say mindu, mindu, nasalize. That is we based on the Central Tibetan dialect. And then there's some people read just mitu, mitu, mitu. Yeah, like this. But this so mintu is more common. So nasalized are more common in spoken language. Okay, this I want to say. So let me read. Ma kiku mi ao ta shabju du ka du mindu mindu. Okay, and then next tao ga jingbo ge tao ga jingbo ge ao ta shabju dun na dun gen dun. Okay, nasalized little n sound gen dun. And then we hear a mao ta naro do amdo. Okay, amdo. It's not ato. So this ato is no one read. Actually looks like literally here looks ato ato, but no one say ato ato. Okay, so we read amdo. Okay, amdo is one region in Tibet. You see like Kham, amdo, and then Central Tibet. So we read as amdo. Okay. And then here we have next we have head letter ra and then ka and yata spell out ra gata ga yata ja, and then we have prefix ma next syllable mao cha naro cho mao cha naro cho yamso yamso. Okay, so some people read yatso, same as like this. So yatso and yamso can be read both, but those Central Tibetan they read Lhasa spoken mostly they read as yamso yamso, just for easiness the pronunciation. Okay, so next we have same ra as a head letter, ka, and then we have yata, and then we have shabju. So ra gata ga, yata ya, shabju yu, mao cha na chen, yum chen. Okay, and then next. We have root letter ka and yata and kiku. Thao ka yata cha kiku chil la chil. Ao ka naro ko ra kor. Kor. Jing kor. Jing kor. So like nga sound. Jing kor. Okay. Some people read jilkor. They read the la, the suffix jilkor, but jinko is for easy, right? Jinko, jinko. Okay, and then let me read once without spell out all this. Okay, mindu, mindu, gendun, gendun, amdo, amdo, jamso, jamso, jumchen, jumchen, jingkor, jingkor. Okay.
Thank you so much, Genla. As we're saying,
That's
these words are really crucial, so they'll be useful for you to remember. Now, there aren't that many left, so don't get discouraged if you're feeling, oh my God, this is never going to end. We're almost coming closer to an end, and these ones are a little bit more, now you're more familiar with these rules, so it'll be easier. So now, as a fifth rule, we're telling you, or exception, is that sometimes the superscript letter la can also produce a nasalization of the sound when it is placed as a second syllable. So it's pretty much the same kind of idea that we just drilled a little bit before. So these are, again, especially the first one is a word that you will hear a lot in conversation.
That's so. So we have ta, and then we have la ta 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 tanda tanda. Okay, we have prefix, head letter la, and then nasalize tanda tanda. Okay, and then next we have prefix ta and ka as root letter, and then a as suffix. Okay, tao ka ha ka, la ta ta dan na den, ganden, ganden. Okay, they also read as a gaten, gaten, but more common is ganden with nasalized. Nasalized is more common in spoken language. Okay, ganden. Did you say?
Again. All right, number 6. Sometimes the prefix of the second syllable might generate the sound that it carries with it, or a sound that might not necessarily be written there, and that's what it's producing. So let's see. For example, we're going to see that in some of these numbers, you will hear the sound k, and in others, you might hear the sound p, or something different. So let's just now directly give the mic back to Genla.
So let's read spell out. We have prefix pa and the root letter cha and shabju. Pao cha shabju chu. Khao sa shabju sum ma sum. Juk sum. Juk sum. Okay. It's, then we say chusum chusum is not very easy for us. That's why we take the second syllable ka to the first syllable. So read as a suffix. So juksum, juksum. Okay. And then we have next sa kata ka yata ja kiku ji ta ji. And then we have mao da naro do ka do. Jimdo, jimdo. Okay. Then we say jido, jido. We say jimdo. Okay. And then we have next ka, and then kao ja naro ju ta ju. kapju, kaju. So this one is a little, how to say, we read that ka as same as like here. Next, you see like that. This pa, like p, cup. Yeah, p sound. You see up. Yeah. So this one is kapju. Yeah, that's p. Kapju. Then we say kaju. And then we don't read as read that ka as kakju, never. So kapju. So this is exception. Okay.
Exactly.
And
This
then,
is what I meant at the beginning when I said that some of them are written in a specific way, but they are pronounced differently, not how you would think. This is what I meant here, that even though it's kakchu, it will be pronounced more as kapchu, as if there were pa. So that's what I meant. It must have sounded a little strange, but now you can relate to what I was saying. Sorry, Genla, here you go. Next word.
Then we have pa and lata and naro. Pa, lata, la, naro, lo. Pao, sa, nga, sang, sang, lop sang. Yeah. And then we have next. Pao, cha, naro, cho. Pao, ra, gata, ga, yata, ya, ta, ye. Chup, ye. Okay. So next, we have prefix pa and sha and kiku. Pao, sha, kiku, shi. Pao, cha, shabju, chu. Shipju. Okay. And then we have next. Pao, cha, shabju, chu. Pao, da, shabju, dun, na, dun. Chupdun. Okay. And then let me read once without spell out from the beginning. Juksum. Kimdo. Kapju. Lopsang. Jopje. Shipju. Chupdun. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Genla. Right, we're coming closer to our end. Now, the 7th example here is that sometimes the superscript letter, especially when it's ra, is actually pronounced. And here we're going back to what Genla was telling us in our previous video when we were discussing some of the sound transformation that is produced by some of the stack letters that are rendering the Sanskrit pronunciation. So you'll find something similar to this over here.
Okay. So ra, ta, naro, do. Ra, jata, ja, jingbo, je. Dorje. Okay. And then next we have ka, ra, ka. Actually ka, and then we have ra, mata, ma, right? But when we say, it's like we read that head letter ra as a ra with a little bit ra, saying like yeah, karma pa. Then we say kama pa. We say karma pa. Okay. And then next we have we read already previous video. We have tha, hata, da, and then ra, mata, ma. But we do it as dharma. Okay. So let me read. Dharma means Oh yeah, Dharma is Dharma. I don't know. In Tibetan, this is Sanskrit. Yeah, Dharma means in Tibetan we say Chö, actually Chö. Yeah.
Right, which has a
Okay.
lot of different meanings. We can understand it as doctrine or phenomena, and there are 10 different meanings of Chu and so on. So,
Okay. So let me read once without spell out. Dorje, Dorje, Karmapa, 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 Dharma, Dharma. That's all.
very good. All right. Well, thank you so much. This really concludes all of the different rules and potential pronunciations that you might find in the all of the different combinations of the letters in the alphabet. So now you are on your way to be able to really read everything with a little bit of practice. So I think this concludes our series of lectures regarding this. Now let's talk just briefly about what's coming next. We have given you some list of vocabulary that are all these words that could be very useful to kind of start memorizing, to start striking conversations with native speakers, but also because you are all having 1 hour of class with an assisted language instructor in order to put into practice all of this knowledge that we are trying to share with you here. Then Genla and I would like to encourage you to actually go through all of these words that we have given you, that we've selected, that have meanings that will be important for you, hopefully, and useful. And so that you can train spelling each one of them very patiently and carefully with your assistant language instructor so that you can really hear the spelling aloud and the end result, and then you'll put into practice everything that we would have taught you. Right, Genla?
Yes, yes. Very good. So please practice with your LIs, and then you can share your this booklet to when you are reading. You can share with them, and then they can see clearly, and then you read, and then they help you. Yeah. Also, the LIs also get this how to say booklet. So both of you have the same format of the booklet. So yeah, there are lots of some useful expressions, very common. Yeah.
And greetings, as Genla has been greeting you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So you will find some of these here. Here are the greetings that you can also start practicing. So we purposefully haven't gone through them so that you can discover them and learn how to spell them and say them aloud with your language partner, with your assistant language instructors. And then when we meet in class, then Genla and I will ask you, we'll test you and see how well you've been able to learn them and see how you're pronouncing them to us. So we will check that. Now, in the end, we just want to show you, we've given you here 3 different examples of the 3 types of there are many different styles of calligraphy that are very common, but these will be the main 3 categories. So we have the Uchen, which is what we are using here with you, which is not typically what is used by people when they're writing. This is the style that is used in order to render capital letters, basically. But when people write notes and in their notebooks and they write each other letters, then it's more ume, or basically the Kyuyik style.
Yeah, Kyuyik style.
Kyuyik is the one that is used the most, which is called the fast letter. So it's actually, as you see, you know, the strokes are quite fast and quite beautiful, and they become a little bit artistic. And this is what is typically used by people in as a daily basis to write each other messages and things like that. And ume is typically learned in school by children when they're learning to read and write and all of that, right, Genla?
Yes, yes, right.
But it's a common one, and some books you will find in ume, so it's important to know it. And then last but not least, you will have one last video with us, in which Genla and I will introduce you to the Wiley transliteration system, and we will talk about it in the next video. So that's all for today. We'd like to thank you, and we wish you best of luck memorizing all this, and we look forward to seeing you in class soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. And See you soon.
See you again, Lan. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.